All right, there we go. So hello everybody, good afternoon. Welcome to Inbound Lunch Bunch, October of 2017. I am Suzanne Carowin. I am our Chief Marketing Officer. We're going to talk today about new subscriber campaigns. There I am. So my background is in nothing but digital. So it used to be that if you said, hi, I'm a digital marketer, people wouldn't really know what that meant. Like, did that just mean email, etc.? But I think now, you know, we can come out. I was talking to one of my dear colleagues out there, Jennifer Daniels at Apex, and she was like, you know, I realized we were doing a session together, Digital Now, and she's the head of marketing, and she said, you know what, I'm a digital marketer. So I thought that was good that those of us out there in the field, if what you do primarily is digital, maybe we should start trying to say, I'm a digital marketer. So if you're going to ask me about the best print campaign in the world, I'm probably not your gal. If you're talking about how to grow in digital and use marketing to do it, then that's probably right up my alley. So my professional career has been spent in different companies, in and out of the association market, in the events industry. I did some stuff in hosting. I did some stuff in always in technology, and how we can use technology to grow business. And so my specialty is in lead generation and growing the business. So whether the business means a specific program, like we're trying to grow your event program or your membership program, or we're trying to bring your product to market, or we're trying to grow an overall company, that would be right in my purview, right? And I get really excited about growth. So I love retention too, but it's always so much fun to gain new things and be able to go out and find new people and bring your, you know, whatever you're passionate about to them as well. And so I really get a kick out of that. And wouldn't that be just the thing, because that's exactly where we are in today's world of the association market. For most of the organizations, and if you're on here, it's probably because you've come to a point where you said, we need some new blood. We need to figure out how we can fundamentally grow our organization. And whether that means getting new members is the one that we hear all the time, or whether it means we've got a new product and we need to amp up our revenue. Whatever the case might be, that's what we're going to talk about today. So Inbound Lunch Bunch is a program we've actually been running for a couple of years now, and we really try to focus this one primarily on growth. So how do I grow? And if we can use digital to do it, so much the better. And of course, people want to use digital because it's the most economical way to do it, typically, as well as it's the most measurable. So we marketers and our finance officers like that combination a ton. From a housekeeping standpoint, just to let you guys know, if something should happen, literally I just had a fire alarm go off earlier today. If something should happen, we drop the call, hang tight, I'll dial right back in. If you have any questions, go ahead and post them on Q&A. I tend to get a little caught up, to say the least, because I love these topics. So I will try to take questions, though, and answer those. And also, everything that we've done from the first time we did this a couple of years ago till now is on our website, available for download. And we've got tons of resources. You can also go to our YouTube channel. All of our videos are there that we've done for webinars, etc. Right? We bundle that all under a concept called HighRoad U, which is our thought leadership initiative. We are very proud to be endorsed by and used by the American Society of Association Executives. And one of the things we do with that is we also offer continuing education credits for the Certified Association Executive. So if you're on this call and you need some CA credits, it is self-reported, but we have had some people that want to get a certificate to prove it. If you need me to prove it for you, you just drop me an email and I will gussy you up a certificate, and you can say you went and attended today, and we will verify that for you. And we are delighted to have you and do any of those housekeeping things. So please, by all means, feel free to use our services from that standpoint. You can sign up and just get now HighRoad U automatically delivered to you, different webinars and toolkits and the like. Speaking of resources, last kind of plug for this before we get in the topic. A couple of things that are new this month, though, that are pertinent to this conversation today is we have a new ebook that we just released this month called Using Free Newsletters to Nurture Prospects into Customers. It's a nice little compilation of Hopefully some more little insights about why you should have a free newsletter, and that's just a no-brainer in today's world. Hopefully I will convince you of that fact as we go through today's topic, and that's available for you to download. It's a PDF, as well as, but I will say, it's amazing to me still how many organizations do not have a free version of their newsletter, and that's the majority. And that's because we have always said that our newsletter is one of our top member benefits, right? So we have absolutely protected that newsletter, perhaps a little bit too much. And I'm not saying that just give away the farm. I'm not necessarily saying that and just open the newsletter up to everyone, but I am saying that we are in a culture now where people have to try before they buy. And so they're not going to probably necessarily just give you money to join based on your word for it. They want to experience you. So if they need to experience the value of your brand, and your brand as your association is the fact that you are the only people that do education and networking and report on your particular topics the best in the industry, then you are probably going to have to work now with a very specific kind of snarky, skeptical consumer who doesn't have a big attention span, and they need to be able to experience it for themselves, and you do have to prove it to them. You got to prove it that you're worth it and you've got the intellectual property, and that they should plunk down their time and money, and that there is going to be a value exchange in the process, okay? So if you're not doing a free newsletter, something to consider. Download that by any means. We'll cover some of that today as well, but that's available for you. And then also this month's Toolkit of the Month, which is coming out this week, probably either today or tomorrow. The Toolkit of the Month is about email marketing maturity. And you can imagine that I bundled these things together because most organizations, again, we do research ourselves. In our research, it shows year over year, our money for our marketing budgets is getting wholly consumed by software and the tools, right? And one of the biggest ones there is email marketing, our website, our association management system, right? But the website and the email tend to come out of the marketing budget, not the IT budget. And if we're going to spend that much money on it, then we should probably be maximizing our money and getting the most out of it. So let's make sure that we're getting every dollar we can out of our software investments for email and our website. And that means that we need to be able to self-check and say, are we moving to a world of using email in a mature way? And when I say that, what I mean is really going into personalization and using email for what email promised us to do, which is to deliver something specific to me. Email is still the most intimate digital communication. It's the one that it's between me and me on my phone, right? And so you should be able to speak directly to that individual in today's world. That would be the assumption, right? That the emails that you're sending from my association can be at the same level of those that are coming from brands that are really trying to sell to me and sell knowing what I've already bought, what I like, what I don't like, etc. And that the burden is not on me, the consumer, to cut through the fluff, right? That I don't have to come through and decide, oh, well, hey, you know what? I'm just going to give the brand a pass because they're just an association and they can only do one newsletter and they're just gonna have to give me all the information and the kitchen sink, and it's up to me to try to navigate through and pick out the gems. No, that means that, you're asking the consumer to do the work, and we know that we have a bunch of mollycoddled consumers. So they have, again, we said, no attention span, kind of fickle, don't have the same loyalty, don't have the same buying cycle anymore. Word of mouth more important than you, the brand, just saying you should do it, right? So Toolkit of the Month this month is all about email marketing maturity, and because it dovetails nicely as a point to say, as we round out 2017 and we start looking, most of us in the marketing world are in kind of budgeting season. If you've got a calendar year, you're thinking now into 2018, what are we going to do? What are we going to do the same? What are we going to improve? And this is a nice tool. I think it's timely to say, how are you doing? How are you doing with that? And then hopefully the rest of today will get you kind of hopefully queued up to say, here's some things that we could implement very quickly that could have very big effects for us as we go into 2018 and we move, for most of us, moving into growth phase. Since I'm saying that, I'll just note, because I just had a great call this week with one of our clients, and we were talking about marketing budgets. And I'll just throw this out there, because as we talk about new subscribers and doing anything new, I'm going to throw this question out there for you, especially if you're in budgeting cycle. How can we expect to get different results if we're only doing the same things we've always done and have no new money with which to do it? Okay? And that is, I know most of you are like, yeah, that sounds like the definition of insanity. But for many of our organizations, that's exactly what's happening. And they're trying to basically grow, but no one has given them a budget or the tools and techniques of growth. And maintenance and growth are two very different things, okay? A maintenance budget for an association, you're looking at 2 to maybe 7%, if you're really lucky, of your annual revenue is what you have in your marketing budget. Maintenance. Growth budget, you need to about double that. Okay, so you need to double it. So you've got to have some new funds in here about growth. And growth and maintenance, again, are very different things. Maintenance is one set of tasks or one set of skill sets, one set of tasks. Growth is something wholly new. And we have a lot of other topics. I talk about this all the time. How do you hire for it? How do you staff your teams for it? You know, what's the mindset of growth? These are all things that need to be part of your organization if you're going to stay on a growth path, or you need to partner with an agency like ours to help you do this fundamental growth thing if you think it's a short-term growth burst and you need to get to a different plateau and then you're going to maintain. So that's something that you can also say, how many people have that conversation internally? Are we in a short-term growth cycle and we just need to bump up and like have a top line growth of X% and we're going to keep it at that level for a good, let's say, 2 years? Or do we need to be on a continuous cycle of growth? Have we thought about that? Right? And it's a really good question from a strategic level to think about. But I'll just, while we start going down the cycle of new subscribers, I'll try to point out, here's things I think you can do with probably your current tools and implement it maybe with little to no cost. Here are some areas where you probably don't have a line item yet for it, but as you're thinking about it, you need to probably start building it in. Because again, if your whole budget is already spent before you start January 1st, because it's all caught up in tools or print or things you've already done, well, that's probably going to be why it's going to be a little bit hard to do anything new, right? And if we're here and we're talking about new subscribers, we need to grow, which means we need some different mechanisms to do that. We got to set ourselves up for success. Otherwise, it's an impossible task. Right? So I mean, I've done growth strategies under some pretty severe situations. It's not like somebody was like, oh, hey, here's $1 million to start with. I have been blessed enough to have that situation, but I've also started with like nothing. So you can do it, but if you need to really grow and need to do it in a time frame, and people really want expectations, you are going to have some sort of new investment or reallocate and let go of something else, right? You got to free up something there. So let's talk about new subscribers. And by the way, I've had a lot of people ask me lately, hey, Suzanne, can you come to talk to our board about this? Can you come and talk to the rest of our staff about this? And the answer is absolutely. Absolutely. We do it all the time. We'd be delighted to do it. So don't hesitate to, again, call us up and talk about it, because we got to get the word out, right? We got to get the associations moving in the right direction. We all got to go back into growth mode. Okay, so new subscribers. So in saying that, this is again now flexing to saying, what's the mindset we need to have? If we're going to talk about new, it means that we need to be forward focused. And this one is such a difficult one because it's a cultural one in most of our organizations. Like I said, for most associations, we have really been in maintenance mode for decades. I mean, not just like one decade, like more decades. And I say that because for most of us, our primary ways that we market is email. It's email, and we try to send out email and bring people back to our website. And we might buy some email lists, we might do some direct mail. But for most organizations, and maybe we're doing some social media, but even when we did social media, it was really about still to the same people who we already have their email address for. We posted in LinkedIn, or we're in our online communities, but we've been in this endless cycle talking to the same people. And what that's done for many organizations is that it's turned us so hyper-focused to internal and retrospective things that we almost don't have the capability anymore to be forward focused, right? So if you think about I spent a lot of time collecting, asking, studying, what are the metrics you use? Show me your KPI dashboard. What are you going to do there? And again, most organizations, the metrics that they have are visits to the website, opens on the email, and their click-through rate. Those would be the top 3 standards, okay? So that's fine. Those are legitimate metrics. But again, if all those metrics are being taken in an endless cycle of the same people, and that list is decaying, it's getting a smaller and smaller group as we go around as people are falling off and unsubscribing, we're never advancing still forward, right? And I say that because we spend at HighRoad so much time with our organizations who are laser focused in on the one person that unsubscribed, or why did this person go invalid? Really, really, really detailed stuff about email marketing data in particular, right? Being able to track down and understand, like being so upset that people's email addresses bounce, but nobody has like any data integrity, data governance rules in place about actually maintaining those lists, okay? So where I'm going with that is, for us to grow, we can't spend all of our time focused in on this nitty-gritty pieces of it, right? Now, obviously it matters who the people are that bounce, et cetera, but if that's going to be that's a retention focus is where I'm going with that. If we're going to be so spending hours looking through and understanding for each individual, email address we have, what happened to that person, we can do it, but let's face facts. That's a retention model. That's a retention model. That's where like every person is so important. We can leave no one behind. Nothing wrong with that. That might have to be one department and they keep on doing it, because retention's obviously incredibly important too. Much easier to maintain, hopefully, a membership and a customer than it is to gain a new one. But that's one whole skill set. That's one set of tools. That's one set of focus. If we're going to talk about growth, I'm not really worrying about it, because growth is I'm casting a big net and I'm trying to understand who can I actually get to attract, and who's going to kind of come to me, and how do I pull them through this funnel we'll talk about, and who falls through the net, and ask the question, is that okay with me or is it not? But my focus is not on who didn't open, and it's not on who unsubscribed. That's not my focus. I'm like, if you don't want me, that's fine. My focus is completely on how do I actually move the people who have shown interest in me? How do I move them and continue to excite them, attract them, appeal to them, talk to them, love them? How do I take that group? And so we go from very much a quantity-based mindset to a very much a quality-based mindset, because we know we're casting a wide net. We know that we're probably not just going to get a mass volume play, okay? What we are looking for is who can we actually laser focus our time, talent, resources on, so that we attract the right people and we gain the right members, okay? Because in an association world of marketing, again, your association is probably not, just for everyone. Very few of us have something that's like as broad as, AARP, right, as a ARP there. Most of us has a huge perspective base. Most of us are very specific in what we do. So there is kind of a overall landscape amount that we could actually grow. For most associations, it's not, an unlimited environment, an unlimited universe of growth opportunity. So if that's the case, we only have this many people we can even get to in the entire world that fit our criteria for why we're an association, then we need to really focus our time on, if we get somebody interested, making sure that we bring them along, okay? And if they don't want us, we just move on, okay? We move on, and that is very different. So from a growth perspective, so if I'm a retention person and I'm talking about engagement, a checkbook member makes my knuckles turn white, right? I am going to stay up day and night. How do I get this checkbook member to stop sending the checks and to get more involved? And why haven't they logged in the community and they're not participating, and I've never gotten them to volunteer, right? That absolutely. In a growth mindset, I love my checkbook members. Absolutely. You keep writing that check, pay it online, that's fine. Because if that's what you want to do, that's fine. But my focus is going to be on that top 10 to 20%, probably on the top 1% who are actually market moving people, so I can influence the mass market. So it's a very different focus to really spend some time in thinking about that. And then saying to yourself, how do we stack up as an organization, right? Are we forward focused? If we had to rate ourselves on a scale of 1 to 10, where would we fall? Okay, and so if you're not growing at the clip you want, probably doing an alignment exercise around that, again, not a bad idea, because then you'll understand, oh, well, we all have to be forward focused, because that means that we have to make hard choices about what we actually focus on. We can't do it all. So if we're going to grow, we got to be laser focused on growth and what that means. And that's what we mean by the forward focus. Once we're forward focused, or once we're thinking that way and we agree, hey, again, it's just like anything else, we got to allocate our resources, we then really need to understand this funnel idea, right? And we need to understand conceptually, and in our head, we have a visualization of what we're actually trying to do in digital. Digital is very hard for many organizations because it is so abstract. And for many of us, we didn't grow up with digital. We're not what's called digital natives, right? So we didn't grow up, when we remember a time without the internet, without phones, not with phones, maybe with smartphones. We remember when Twitter, came around, and the same thing with our membership. And it's hard not to get swayed by all of that and say, we'll get there. And that's what we hear all the time. But the fact is that the way that consumers shop now, almost regardless of age or demographic, is through digital, right? So they're researching now. They have far more access to information than they've ever had before, etc. And so this idea that we need to utilize that to the greatest extent that we can to gain new, you fill in the blank, members, customers, registrants, certificate participants, whatever that might be. In order to do that, we need to start thinking in this visualized funnel within our brains and start to think about how digital all ties together. And for a lot of it's hard because we still don't actually really understand how the web works or email, right? And somehow that just got skipped over, and no, we just said, oh, somebody sold us on it was just an easy tool and send it out. And it's, there's a lot to it, and no one told us it's an entire field. Not said that digital marketing has all these subspecialties within it, right? As well as you need the principles of marketing and product marketing and loyalty marketing and brand marketing, etc. Then you need to overlay knowledge of digital. So if you feel like, yeah, this seems like I'm not sure if we have that or not, you're not alone, because all of the kind of brand experts out there will state that the vast majority of people out in the marketing profession do not have the requisite skill sets when it comes to digital. So we're all coming up to speed, right? We're all working on it, and it's just like any other true profession, true kind of thing. It changes every day, and you have to do a lot of reading, and you got to have a lot of colleagues, and you got to talk to a lot of people, and it should be a culture of sharing. All right, so that is one nice thing about digital marketing. Most digital marketers are very interested in sharing and being, oh, that's cool. How'd you do that? So back to getting new subscribers. So this is the full funnel. That's what I call it. This is our HighRoad marketing continuum. And so where I put marketing automation and why marketing automation is so hot in today's world is because it handles the upper half of the funnel. Now, usually a funnel looks like, think about, a funnel that's coming down, etc. I call this the full funnel because we have the other part here that is the bottom of the funnel once you become a customer, where you go from customer out to evangelist, okay? And that's where I think that most organizations are really, really good at. This is now, I already have a member, they joined, now what, okay? So we can all improve. We have a lot of people that ask us to do automation sequences and campaigns for lapsed members or year 1 to year 2. There's always those kinds of programs. But for the most part, most organizations, that's where they spent the last 10 to 20 years of their life, is in retention, okay? The top half of the funnel is where it gets exciting and new, and people start going, ooh, I didn't know about that, okay? And that's where marketing automation fits in, and that's why so many organizations now are saying, I gotta go get marketing automation. Like, we gotta get a new software tool, we gotta get something new, and that's because marketing automation does some different things than email. So it goes beyond it and it becomes more comprehensive. And what marketing automation is trying to do, it is not trying to automate emails. That's not marketing automation. That's email automation, which you need to. Marketing automation is trying to give you a tool that helps you to move people out there in the world from an unknown state to a state in which they purchase. And you want to use a tool that can help you track that, help you organize that, and most importantly, help you measure it, okay? That's why you get marketing automation. So marketing automation is inherently tied to revenue, lead generation. Like, lead generation is inherently tied to revenue, right? If you just are going to generate leads to generate leads, why would anybody do that? You're generating leads because you're trying to create new revenue, you're trying to create new customers, okay? So if you're just trying to automate emails, like we spend a lot of time on doing member renewals, or like every month I want to send somebody an email saying, hey, great job on month 2 of your membership. That's awesome. That's not marketing automation. Marketing automation means you're trying to market, okay? Marketing means you're worried about the pricing, positioning, promotion, and you're trying to make money. Okay? That's the difference. You're trying to communicate, that's great. But trying to market means you got to have some sort of revenue component to what you're thinking about doing, okay? So, and for also, as a side note, for a lot of organizations, it's also tough because the people that have been kind of in charge of pricing and promotion and what to do have been in the business unit and not in the marketing kind of centralized group, right? So that's tough too. So now we've got a decentralized kind of historically organization where, like, the publications person got to decide the pricing and positioning and channels, and they just said to the marketing central group, go send email. That stuff is breaking down now. That's not a workable organizational structure, right? So we're separating out now marketing communication. It's not, that Marcom thing is more like MarTech, and then communications. So marketing automation, again, the purpose of getting these tools, why you have everybody cold calling you probably, except for us, is that you're going from how do I measure and put a program together to go get new people who don't know me now and I don't know, and move them into a world in which I can convert them to become a customer, right? Which is the hallmark of getting new subscribers, okay? So we have to really understand this funnel, think this way, and start using the same terminology to understand I'm trying to go from an unknown, also called anonymous user, to move them down some sort of funnel so they get close. People are falling out. If it's a funnel, that means it's getting narrower. So we start with a broad swath of people, and we're trying to basically qualify them down based on their behavior and find out who really looks like, smells like, acts like, shows us, proves that they want to be with us, okay? And that's the purpose of marketing automation, to be able to manage and measure that process. Okay, so we're going to see that funnel again and again. So in looking at that, If that's the case, then what we need to focus in on new subscribers is how do we handle all of the things up here to attract new people into the new opportunity? How do we get new people in? Okay, and I'm going to call it new people into new. We need new, everything new, 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 new. Invalids are not here, right? Worrying about, you know, somebody changed companies and what if they have a duplicate email? No, I don't care. If they have 4 different emails, but they've all filled out my form, I'm loving life. Okay, because it means we have more insight into this person. So our job now is to focus in on what are all of the mechanisms, what are all the things we can do, what's our kind of menu of options of how do we attract new people into this funnel, okay? And that's how we can start talking about gaining new subscribers. So we're going to do that. We're going to go ahead and move on and talking about our attracting new people checklist, okay? So these are some questions you can ask yourself. So 1, where are you getting new email addresses? Because ultimately what I'm trying to do is find a way to get a new subscriber is for someone to willingly, with sound body and mind, say, I like what you've got and here's my email address, and yes, I am happy to hear from you, okay? And so if you're of a certain age, that would be equivalent back in the day to being able to, you know, find somebody and actually exchange phone numbers, right? So you don't just give your phone number out to anybody. So it depends what generation a little bit we're talking about. There's some generational things in there. But if you're trying to go after millennials, think of the email address as equivalent to somebody giving out their phone number back in the day, okay? It was a big deal. So, you know, it's like saying, hey, you know, it's called the driver's license of the digital age is the email address. So if you think of email addresses as something really, really, really vitally important and very sensitive data is how the email world would like you to think of email addresses, right? That's why the email service providers are really cracking down. That's why you've got new rules like the Canadian anti-spam and the European laws, because everyone is trying to say, you've got to treat email addresses as if they are sensitive data, right? And they're not like just a bunch of fax numbers. These are sensitive pieces of information. And so when someone elects to give you that email address, right, that's how you should gain it, by somebody saying, I am giving you my email address and permission to contact me, that we need to be able to honor that exchange and value the email address in that way, because it is the most intimate of communications. And so if that's the premise and we're using that for a new subscriber mentality, right, then most organizations, when I say that, I go out and speak a lot, are cringing. There's usually somebody there who's like, because they don't really do that. They just take a bunch of email addresses and they just continue to blast away, right? So this is a very different mindset again. This isn't volume. This is, you have actually gotten someone to say, I like what you have and I'm interested in hearing more. Now they might go away because these are early days. We're just trying to attract, and you have to have a thick skin because this is a numbers game at the end of the day, okay? So if you get somebody to sign up, you should be super excited. But if they decide to also opt out and that's not what they thought, etc., you have to also just say, okay, we got to go. We have to ask the question, you know, where do we think we went wrong? Kind of how can we improve? But that's going to happen. We also have to know that's going to happen. We're charting a new course, right? So again, we're at that top of the funnel. So there's a big funnel, right? So we're trying to say, how do we go from this big funnel down to the next level of prospect, which is already inherently narrower, okay? Usually by a lot, right? So attracting new people, where are we now getting our email addresses? Do we have kind of the right understanding of email? We need to understand that we need a new pipeline, okay? So we're going to say, do we have a new pipeline that we're trying to fill? Okay, and that usually new pipeline would be new people into our certification programs, new member pipeline, new exhibitor pipeline, new sponsor pipeline, right? New corporate member pipeline or some sort of, you know, affiliate partner. We need a new pipeline. We need to be able to say, are we understanding, again, in our head, that we're trying to fill a pipeline and move people through that funnel, okay? We need to also remember we got to comply with our compliance laws. Like I said, email service providers are cracking down. If you haven't heard the term gray mail or your email reputation, marketing automation platforms typically will do this for you. They're trying to get you to say, hey, don't move to a marketing automation platform and then still continue to send out your 10,000 strong, email newsletter every week, because that's not what marketing automation is supposed to be for one-to-one. And they're going to say, hey, you can do it, but the people you're sending to, they need to prove that they're actually engaged with you. Okay? Don't just keep sending the same 10,000 people, even though 5,000 of them have never opened an email in the last year. Okay, that's going to hurt you. So we need to be aware of that, because again, that data governance and cleaning up our lists, etc. And then also in our attracting new people checklist, we need to ask ourselves, are we able to spend money and measure our return? Okay, and if we're not doing that now, we're going to need to do that, because if we're going to go ask for new money from the board or from use slush funds or whatever it is we're going to do, we're going to put it into our budget, we are going to have to establish how we think that's, or at least a hypothesis about the return we think we're going to get on it, or the fact that we can set some baseline measurement and say, we don't know now, but if we spend this pilot program amount of money, we will be able to know without a shadow of a doubt what we got for it. So if you want the secret for budgeting and asking for new money, you do a pilot program with a small spend. I mean, not like, I've had people say like, well, I have $10 to spend on digital, and that's not going to do it. So you have a small spend for a good amount of time period, let's say a quarter, 3 months worth, do a pilot program, get the data, say, here's what we learned. We see that this is going to be something that's beneficial for us. And then you go and ask for the big amount of money, right? But so many organizations, they try to just bite off the entire thing instead of saying, I have actual real data to start with. And if we're talking about money, everybody's going to be data driven. So in order to really get that buy-in and also mitigate your risk, do a pilot program. Don't try to boil the ocean and wait for like, in the year 2020, we're going to finally have money to do this. Start small and grow. That's the best kind of piece I can say. So attracting new people, you can go through that and say, where are we with all these things, okay? Now again, what are we trying to do? We're trying to attract people into the new. So there's different ways to do this. Now we're getting into the how, okay? So we're trying to get people in the how, in the funnel, and we have to say, how do we get new people in there? Okay. So in order to get new people in there, there's a couple of different ways, and you guys are probably all well familiar. So it's not so much that you don't know that social media exists, or that direct mail or radio or TV ads or billboards or trade shows or events and print magazines, etc. And there's other ways. It's now about how do we use the right combination of them to get people to move down the path that we want. That's the question. Okay, so we're going to use some combination. Think of these as all ingredients. These are all called channels. Now we need to figure out the right amount if they're all ingredients, is like the right amount of seasoning. How much should we put in social media versus billboard versus TV, etc. It's the whole bit. So we've got to figure out that mix. That's what it's called, our marketing mix. But no matter which way we do this, and we usually use a combination, integrated marketing, but no matter how we do it, the whole takeaway now in growth for generating new subscribers is wherever we're out there, because we're trying to get in front of people that don't know us, right? So we need to make some educated guesses about where those people might be. But wherever they might be, if we can get them to focus a half a second to get them to come to us, then what we need to do is we need to drive them and bring them to a place that where we control now the environment and the message, and we can do as much measurement as possible, okay? That is something I say, and I spend a little bit more time on that because many organizations use this mix of channels, and they drive everybody right back to www.myassociation.org. Really, really common. And as soon as you do that, you've lost control. You've let the user now left on their own to choose where they're going to go. And that's the antithesis of what you want to do in growth. In growth, I actually want to craft that journey, and I want to control as much as I can. I'm trying to put them on a controlled path, okay? So if you want to think about it as I'm trying to lay down breadcrumbs and get them to go down a set path, because I'm trying to measure the delta for every one of those little touch points. If they did this and if they didn't do it, what does that mean? If they progressed on to the next step, did they do the next desired action or not? And I'm actually trying to lead them down an adoption path. That's why most growth kind of marketers typically come out of things like product marketing, things like that. Adoption, that's a big one for us, because we understand that we can't leave it to chance, right? What we're not trying to do is say, oh, hello, come in and browse. No browsing. We don't want you browsing unless we decided that's a good thing for you, right? So that's something different. So we're going to use all these pieces, so even our social media, and we're going to drive them back to a place or places where we control the message. So now they've gone from just being out there in the world of Twitter. Now they've come into our organization's specific place for that specific channel that's going to talk to these people in a specific way. And that's going to get us already ratcheted up to prime the pump for this person to become a new subscriber, okay, for them to start to adopt in. Now, there's all sorts of different places you can send that person, right? I could send them to a classic landing page. I could send them to my Facebook page. Maybe I have a special offer there. I could send them to my YouTube channel, my Instagram, my Pinterest. I could send them to instantly download a PDF if that's going to work for them. I could send them to things like interactive tools or quizzes. So I'm going to send them some place that I have decided for them to go. But regardless of where I do it, I'm doing it purposefully. It wasn't happenstance, and I didn't probably leave them at the door of my website. One of the things that, from a growth standpoint, is one of the things that always makes me scratch my head, is that we encounter organizations all the time, and we say, okay, what do you have on the docket as an initiative? And the first thing they say is, we're going to rebuild our website. And I just go, oh, because your website at the end of the day is retention, right? Your website is this big repository, but to be honest, you don't need your website for growth. And a lot of new businesses, they have very few, it's almost back to brochureware, because what they're investing in is landing pages, or they're investing in being able to seal the deal on gaining new subscribers. And if, again, all of your money and time goes to the website, which is a massive initiative, you've missed the opportunity to grow. And some of the thought pattern is like, well, we don't want new people to come, and then like they see like we look like, you know, it's like our hotel hasn't been renovated, and then they're going to get there and they're going to say, this is old. And my whole point is like, you don't have time for the renovations. Build out some landing pages in the meantime that you can capture them and get going through marketing automation, and then rebuild the website behind as they turn into members, right? But you've got some runtime on that. So just a thought, but that's the thinking of, I'm bringing new people to my overall corporate website, you know, organizational website, but that's a big endeavor. So if you need to speed up and show growth, my goodness, let's focus on something else that's a little bit smaller than overhauling the website. Is what you should be doing is building out awesome campaigns based on landing pages. But we'll get to that in a sec. So we need to, regardless, purposely drive people. And again, we have set up the breadcrumbs, if you will, and that is why it's called the buyer's journey. If you've heard that term, it's because we have purposely created a scenario of what we said, ideally, we're going after somebody who fits a persona, somebody who fits the criteria. We've outlined the criteria we're looking for. We've outlined the channel where those people exist, like a particular Twitter hashtag, etc. We have put out the right crumbs, and hopefully we put out the right content offers to attract that person in that channel. And then we have purposely gotten them to lead them down a path of going to a series of places that we control. And you can see, it could be, your website doesn't even have to necessarily maybe be there, maybe at all, or maybe you can only bring them in as soon as it's time to purchase. But you could do all of that without ever touching your organizational website. Just a thought. So and that's another one. A lot of small staff organizations say, we just don't have the money to do this. And it's like, you don't have the money not to do this. You can be as even more agile a lot of times in large organizations. So again, you can do a lot of this now with other resources. Don't get so bogged down into that only website mode. Like I said, a lot of organizations now, or a lot of companies that have high growth, they don't invest right away in big websites. It becomes a retention tool. You could probably do it with the community, Facebook, some YouTube, and a marketing automation system, you're good to go. Okay, so that's what we're trying to do. Purposely drive user behavior to measure the readiness of change, right? So we're trying to drive them on this path, which means that we have to already define the path and have these little content assets, these little nibbles along the way that's going to lead them in, okay? And so that's something that most organizations are like, oh, hadn't really thought about that one, because we're focusing on getting out the email on Thursday to members. So this is where a lot of times agencies come into play. This is a lot of the work that we do, because either you need to amplify your effects, etc., but you don't know how to put it all together, or you do, but you don't have the time, or whatever the case be. That's why we do this type of work. So just keep that in mind. But we're purposely trying to drive user behavior. And we're going to be able to measure that along the way. So moving on to mechanisms to attract. So we know what we're trying to do to gain new subscribers. What are some of the mechanisms and some of the things we can think about? So a couple of comments on the big ones. Social media, without a shadow of a doubt, this is one of the biggest reasons that social media exists, is to get in front of people who you don't now know, and they now don't know you, okay? Now, the interesting thing, again, about social media in the association market is that for many organizations, social media has become, again, the way that it's been approached has been a retention model. So everything that I'm doing, I go ahead and I post it on social media. So it's just become an extension of my email newsletter, right? And I haven't necessarily either split my team or thought about, okay, there's social media for retention and for like communication purposes, PR purposes, but then we need social media for growth. And again, might be some different people that need to do this, etc. Because this is now about having a partner or having somebody on staff who knows how to go find out new audiences, take your persona that you've identified or define the persona, and go find new people that fit that. It's audience identification, it's called. And there's something in social media and almost all the tools to allow you to do not just that, but lookalike audiences. So the tool's going to help you get in front of people who already look like your target audience that you've identified you want to go after for growth. Okay? Interesting. Social media, I'm going to need my segmentation criteria. I'm going to need to be really tight on that. I'm going to really need to be tight on who the key influencers are. So when I'm doing social media for growth, I'm not necessarily worried about getting 4,000 followers and retweets. If I can, great. But what I'm trying to do is get in front of the right people and hook them. I'm using social media for bait, and I'm doing it really strategically, really purposefully, in being able to really study the people and study the channel and match up my content offer to what they're looking for. Now, that also means that we have to probably take our content and our offer and scrutinize it. Is it valuable enough that somebody's going to give me their email address for it? Okay? And also, I can't probably have one message for all people. I probably need to get really targeted and differentiate the value proposition of that content offer for each one of these kind of personas, okay? So we get into a world of multitudes. So I might have one offer, and the offer is become a new subscriber, sign up for my newsletter, start down the journey to membership, start down the journey to certification. Could be the same offer, but I might be looking at it from 7 different ways in different channels with different positioning, different content, etc. The bottom line there, the net of that, is that we're past the point where we can use social media for fluff, okay? No fluffy social media like, oh, let's just have something. This is really knowing the subject matter, really knowing the audience inside and out, and really being able to stay on my talking points, on the value proposition, and studying how people are reacting to that and who's biting and starting down that buyer's journey, okay? That's a whole different level of social marketing knowledge. But that's, if you're talking growth, you need that. That's what you need to do. So I said social media, to do it well in growth, you need really good content. You probably need some really good graphics that, again, are going to speak and resonate to those specific audience categories. and you need distribution. You really need to understand distribution well within social media and how to get to those right audiences, etc. What doesn't work is just posting away and saying hashtag blah, blah, blah. You know, again, there's so many people that they just put up hashtags and they have no idea if anybody follows it. If it's like there's porn on there, if there's something unseen, they just like throw it out there, right? And so that's not, I mean, that's a whole different discussion. Could be you're doing brand awareness, but for growth, we are being targeted and purposeful, and like every minute and effort counts. Digital advertising, I would say you back off the heaviness of the content. So I'd call it content light, with the exception of advertorials, but you need to be probably even better on the graphics and on the distribution, right? So you're gonna have some of the same criteria, but again, in order to do digital advertising well and do it, excuse me, for growth, to bring people back to one of these places that you are controlling, then you need to, again, have a very compelling message and be able to do it really well. And probably your call to action is not join now. It's probably something else, right? So probably what you're advertising is sign up for the free newsletter, get the free ebook, download our research, you know, take the self-assessment quiz, right? You know, is being a physician assistant right for you? And you're trying to develop those types of people, okay? Understanding that piece is really important because you need to have the right copy and graphics to get that message across. And associations tend to be very verbose. That's why you've got those newsletters, scroll and scroll and scroll. This has to be very pithy, very on target. So you got to have people that are really good at advertising, right? Getting people to be it compelling and make the change. I make one comment there on advertorials, which can be, which obviously have, advertorials are like basically sponsored content and things like that. Obviously a lot more content can be very effective, right? Again, you need somebody who can really, that's a little bit of the try before you buy. But in order to do digital advertising, obviously you actually have to have a line item to spend money. And what we see in our surveys, for our research surveys, is that's hardly anybody. And the organizations that are having good growth and gaining new people though, digital advertising is absolutely in the budget. Not just, you know, and I would include spending on social too. So true spend, not just using everything free. Again, if we're gonna grow, we're gonna have to spend. Couple of comments on using other types of mechanisms, direct mail, radio, TV, other. It's all about buying the right lists. So again, we have to be really good at audience identification. Now you notice I didn't say buying email lists. Don't be buying email lists. This is about buying direct mail lists and using direct mail, which can be incredibly effective, albeit costly, right? But it's all about, again, not having that generic message, really being able to target, again, the value proposition, the graphics, you know, with the right format to get in front of that person. And then the call to action that we have on any of these things, we need to bring it back to, again, a space that we control that's measurable. The big thing with using direct mail or radio or TV, et cetera, is setting the budget and setting expectations that these are going to be big spends, and the likelihood of you being able to measure super effectively and your results are going to be pretty small. Right? And maybe I should say it for all of it. So if you're expecting like you're going to, you know, spend money on Twitter and all of a sudden you're going to, you know, have a direct connection to, I'm going to have 10 new registrants, that's could happen, but you know, there's some unlikeliness in there. Remember, we're trying to gain new subscribers and nurture them into really being customers. On the trade show side, something interesting, if you are not going to trade shows with your association, get your name out, or if you haven't thought about it, but if you do, something to think about again is how are you going to measure? What kind of registrations do you get pre and post? Do you have an integrated campaign to do it? And the things you really need to say about making trade show decisions, which is why trade shows are a little bit, they're either booming or they're in jeopardy, is why are you going? Because for many organizations, going to a trade show, it's the same people over and over again. And it's just the physical form of your same email newsletter, right? So if you're not adding to your lead list and you're trying to grow, that's not a good spend of money, right? If you're going for brand awareness or you're going because all your clients are their customers, you're going for retention, well, that's a different thing, but that's for retention. If you're going for growth, you need to probably go to new markets that don't know you, right? And basically you're buying up their lists and you're buying up exposure to get your point across. So some comments there. So the most used new capture mechanism, without a doubt, is the landing page form combo, right? So a couple of kind of comments as we start to finish up here is thinking about, okay, at the end of the day, if I've got somebody to bite on social, they clicked on my link, I put something out there about, hey, sign up for our new free newsletter, sign up for our research, etc. I'm bringing them back to the space I control. The most popular one is the landing page. The landing page may or may not be part of your content management system. And I think that's why so many people get held up, because they think they have to build it in their content management system, and they don't. As a matter of fact, there's some good reasons why you don't want it to. So usually you want it to align with what channel somebody's coming from. You want to be able to have dynamic content and flex to it, etc. And also, you might want to be able to just take the form that's on a landing page here in blue. You can usually pull that out and pop it into your website as well if you're really afraid someone's going to miss it, okay? But a lot of reasons why you want to do that. But the most common, and this is a part and parcel of every marketing automation system, and a lot of email marketing systems too, is to have a landing page and a form. Why do I need the form? The form is going to give me the almighty email address which I'm searching for. So all sorts of ways that I can do that, of examples of new subscriber campaigns, and it doesn't really matter what of these I'm doing, because all of them have the same concept of a landing page and the form, would be all of these things. Signing up for a free newsletter, research, benchmarking, subscribing to a podcast, a channel, a webinar, a meetup. This is a whole litany of things that the digital marketer employs all the time to ultimately get you to this almighty form to capture information about you. And what they're looking for is to get that email address and then have subsequent interactions where I can ask you additional information, because now I have your email address, now I'm tracking you. Now I'm going to go to a one-to-one mechanism to figure out how can I get to know you better, because I want to give you things that you want, or I'm going to put out things that we offer and see if you want it too. And we're ultimately trying to figure out through digital, are we a match? Are we a match? So here's all sorts of examples of ways that I can get and gain new subscribers, new email addresses that I can then nurture. Once we have the data and we have that form data that includes an email, now we get to automation. Okay, so now is when automation happens, and now I can have some heavy lift off of my staff, and I can now say, okay, because remember, we've designed the buyer's journey. So if I got you to hook and you bit the cheese and you're coming in here, I'm now going to start to nurture you and start to say, okay, if you signed up for this and you said, hi, I'm interested in getting more information, I'm now going to honor that, and I'm going to start to put out information that's equivalent to that. I'm not going to bait and switch you. I'm not going to ask you to join now in the second go around, but I'm going to put something out and see if you keep consuming my content, and so that I can understand when the right time is to ask for that conversion goal. That's where lead scoring comes in. So I look back at my predefined buyer's journey that we decided, and I start realizing that somewhere around the way, you gave me your email address through a form, and I started now moving you through, and after you downloaded my resource, you filled out the form, then you opened the next email, then you came back and visited another page, then you did something else. At some point, I'm going to say, now it seems like I have enough data to say it's time to ask you, do you want to, whatever, join, register, participate, right? And you either are or not. You're either going to be ready or you're not. But using lead scoring, putting point values to your interactions of a predefined plan that I set out, tells me when it's the right time to ask, okay? It doesn't guarantee any results, but it's going to tell me I'm not going to also make a misstep and turn you off, okay? So I'm going to be able to do that. That's how all these pieces of marketing automation fit together. So to recap the whole thing about new subscribers, we're going to think like the funnel. We are going to have this burned into we're going to write it all over this place. Every organization I ever go to, I draw it on your board. Some people keep it, they take pictures. All right, we'll send you the funnel, but we're going to know the funnel, and we're going to start thinking about if we need new subscribers. Okay, we're going to go through our checklist. We're going to say, have we identified the audience? Do we have the compelling offer to move them through the funnel? How are we going to bring them back? Where are we going to put that information out in the world to get them to come back to an area that we control? We can gain their email address. And how do we purposefully move them through that funnel and measure it? How do we move that through that buyer's journey so that we get the results that we're looking for, and we can understand who is kind of with us, who maybe needs some extra nurturing, etc., and we can measure that all the way along the way. That's how we can get new subscribers, right? And we're just going to keep putting that out there and perfecting that cycle, okay? So why do we need these again at the end of the day? Our lists decay. We've been talking to the same people. We need new blood. We need new revenue. At the end of the day, all of it, your organization, you need new subscribers because it empowers everybody. It gets the energy, right? The energy is what makes people want to be a member. And if you think about it, that's what everybody loves about annual meeting, but hardly anybody goes to the annual meeting, and usually in the overall population of your organization. So we have to somehow take that energy and that excitement and the why be a member, and I'm proud to be X, Y, and Z organization member, and we got to put it into digital. That's the next challenge for us in the association market. We got to figure out how we can translate the physical feelings that people have about membership and infuse it into digital, because the more energy we have, the more we attract, and more people, the like-minded people will come to us, and we'll get those new subscribers, right? End of the day, don't feel like you have to go it alone. Like I said, we got a lot more content out there. Please use it. Be in touch with us. You know, think about how you can interact with us, etc. And at the end of the day, go do good work. Make today great. Thank you so much for joining us. Take care, and hope to see you at our next Inbound Lunch Bunch.